All right. It says we're live on the Facebook and the YouTubes.
Welcome if you're on Facebook and YouTube.
I think
We're
stuff is
spinning up Threadgram right now.
Yep. Threadgram is up.
We are up. Confirmed.
Oh, up. Yep. I got to put our picture on. Yeah. There we go.
All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm Javad Shadzi. This is Nate Stewart. And we're here to answer all your questions. Yeah, apparently we're here to entertain because somebody thought I was not entertaining enough. Fortunately, I don't get paid to entertain anybody. Just here to answer questions about 034 Motorsport products and services and anything else you'd like to know, frankly.
Yep.
We had our Summerfest event on Saturday. I think we're still cleaning up and in the afterglow of that.
Recovering, yep.
Very fun. I spent the entire time cooking.
You never left the group.
I never even got to see anything.
That was rough.
Me and my helpers, it was good. We served 120 pounds of tri-tip, USDA choice tri-tip, and about 350 chicken legs and a few chicken thighs, and lots of potato chips. A lot of potato chips, like dozens of bags of party-sized potato chips, and much soda was drunk.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
that was gone by like midday.
My favorite is the people that come up like, excuse me, how much is it? It's like, it's free. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's free tri-tip. I don't know what else to say. Like,
just eat.
Enjoy yourself. Well, why is it free? I don't know, because we're not a tri-tip selling company. We sell car parts. If you'd like to buy those, you definitely have to pay for that.
In reality, it's the permitting and the licensing, I think, mostly. We just don't want to deal with any of that. So it's cheaper to just give it away.
The event, I think, for me is, and for all of us, but for me specifically, why I literally cooked for 4-5 hours behind grills is because for me it's a way to show my appreciation. I could hire a food truck to come, probably cost about the same, maybe a little bit more, but then I wouldn't have to do anything. But for me, like, I want to give something back, and for me, cooking for other people and doing it with my own hands, it's a way for me. Whether anyone takes it that way or not is another story. But I think a lot of people did appreciate. Like dozens of people came and thank you. And
super appreciative.
So thank you guys if you were here. Some people drove from across the country. There was people here from Ohio, from LA.
The Saskatchewan guy, I think, said he drove 9-something hours to get down here.
Really? I don't know. How do you get?
I'm not sure if it was
got to be
part of the leg of the trip or something, but
yeah, 9 hours will get you to like Bend, Oregon.
Yeah.
No, people from all over. It was packed. The food line went. It must have been 200 yards long at one point.
Yep.
So it was great. I think we fed a good 300-400 people. 400 plus probably.
Yep.
All right. So we're now here to answer your questions. We got questions coming in. We will do our best to get through them, and we're going to skip update questions in favor of answering questions that we can actually answer.
First update.
The mobile flashing is coming.
Yes. All of mine.
Yeah, those that made it actually got to see some demos going on.
We were doing
both Android and iOS was running logging and flashing. So
yeah.
Someone asked me to flash them to OnePlus. They bought it soon. And we're like, hey, can I get it?
Me?
For you.
Yeah.
So we mobile flashed in the parking lot.
Awesome.
There you go.
I guess 1 minute 34 seconds, 1 minute 38.
All right.
Sweet.
So,
all right. When going stage 3 on the B9 platform, how frequently would you recommend to data log the car as preventative measure? I don't know. What do you think?
That's going to really come down to use and what you're doing with it. How hard you're running the thing. If you're on track, if you're, just daily driving the thing with occasional pulls here and there, it's going to be, much different, wear rates or concerns. So, I mean, that's a really tough one to answer and give any kind of, the more the merrier, but it's not something we require, like you're logging it every week. If you're you're going to go do a bunch of heavy driving or something, maybe just a quick little health check, preemptively. If you're going to be on, going to some track event or, drag racing, whatever, just make sure, that yeah, things are in good shape. But,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have like a schedule or prescription per se for that we prescribe to.
I think we would recommend that when you first get up and running,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the initial
Do the
setup just
log.
to make sure everything is where it should be.
send it to us. But after that, there's no prescribed regular logging interval, other than the fact that if you feel something wrong,
Yeah.
like you feel a hesitation or a misfire, if anything doesn't feel normal, then it can't hurt to do that as your first diagnostic step.
Yeah, never just drive through stuff and think it'll get better. That's what
Yeah.
so many people end up. I just kept going and figured it would clear up. That's not how cars generally behave.
Yeah, it could indicate, a clogged injector. It could indicate a bad spark plug, failing coil. There's a lot of different factors.
Yeah, old school, like on carbureted stuff, or some stuff like that, where your fuel mixture's all over the place. You can foul the plug, partway through a pull, and you rip on it for a while and heat things up and kind of burn that off. Yeah, that used to be a thing.
That doesn't happen.
Get on it, clear it up. But these days, that's not a good way to fix things.
Especially not with how highly stressed these motors
Yeah.
are. Is the mobile flashing going to be supported for all platforms?
For all supported platforms. So currently, yes, our goal is to have it released for every single thing that we are flashing from the server. Is completely flashable from our mobile app. That's how it's been from the start. We don't have any reason to change that. So currently, yeah, everything that we can flash from any PC, we can flash mobile right now.
Racingline already released stage 1 and 2 for Simos 19.3 EA888 Gen4. Are you going to offer these stages for 19.3 in the near future?
Yeah, we were just talking about this in our calibration room, actually. Yes, we will support them. How quickly that happens and whatnot is yet to be determined, because we don't have access to the same cars here. So
Can you clarify what they are?
19.3 is like the real early, or it was mostly in rest of world cars for the latest gen GTI and Skoda and some other cars. But we just simply didn't get them here like they did over there.
It's just not relevant for the U.S. market.
Yeah, not
As a
not,
team.
not in the GTIs, not in anything that's actually like a applicable market for us.
Are they the same engine as the Gen 4 stuff? Or
The motor and the hardware are essentially the same. Yeah, it's just the ECU. So, and then there's other weird ones in there where you've got the old Mark 7 engine, but with the brand new ECUs, like a Simos 19.6, but with the old
It's a
Gen 3 motor. So
there's not as many of those, but I think there was some parts bin.
There's definitely some parts bin specials. Yeah.
It would be good as a follow-up. It would be good to understand why they're asking. I just wanted to find out the viability of swapping a 4.0T into the B9 RS5. I know you've done the swap for the B9.5.
Yeah, viability is very different between those two. One is going to be a FlexRay network, one's CAN bus, and it's going to depend on which 4.0T you're talking about. Or what's that?
Yeah, I think they're talking to 4-liter.
If it's the new 4-liter with the new FlexRay stuff, you're going to be in a better league to cross it over. But to do it cleanly and do it right, I had to do quite a bit of manipulation on the drivetrain messaging systems in the calibration, in the ECU calibration, to get it to talk, B8 things versus C6 or C7 things. So I don't have a solid answer on what it would take and how straightforward that would be to move that over. But expect a fair bit of pretty low-level calibration wizardry to get that to work cleanly.
It's funny the swap conversation that are being had these days. Used to be like, hey, can I swap a 400 horsepower engine into a car that came with 80 horsepower? Now it's like, can I swap a 600 horsepower engine into a car with bolt-on 700 horsepower upgrades?
Right.
I think it's viable if you really want to do it. There's a way to do it. We haven't done it in an RS5, but gosh, I really have to question
what the
logic
package
there.
is. Yeah.
Other than a bump in torque, you're not going to make any more horsepower. Not easily. The RS5 on 720s is already making 700 horsepower. So yeah, there's just less torque, less displacements, but that's not really what you want in these cars anyway. So, and 900, 1,000 horsepower is coming for the RS5 in the future as well. So
Yeah, I mean,
I would
if there's some reason you've got like an RS5 with a bum drivetrain, like a motor or something, and you're trying to find
Yeah,
something
you
to
just
put in,
got a shell or something.
I would strongly push much more towards like just a 3 liter setup, and that's going to get you into like the most supported aftermarket platform.
Yeah.
To
Hey,
start
what
with.
about that splitter question?
I had to put it down. It was
Oh.
off topic, but
No, it's not.
Come on, bro.
It's about cars.
Car things.
We're gonna talk about cars too. This is an interesting question. Do things like front splitters or rear diffusers increase downforce by a meaningful amount? What are the best ways to add downforce? So I'll address this real quick. We won't get too much into it, but it's an interesting topic. So a lot of the times when you see splitters on street cars and diffusers on street cars, no, they don't do anything because they're for looks. They're emulating something that a race car has, and so you do a kind of a representative, artistic, visual version of it that actually works on a street car. A real splitter does not work on a street car. You can't even you could barely drive a race car across a parking lot with a splitter on it. A splitter basically works to eliminate airflow underneath the car. So a really good splitter is made from basically a sheet of plywood or bigger, but most good race car splitters are going to be at least 5 feet wide and 6 feet long. It's like go under the car at least 6 feet and completely encompass the front of the car, from left to right. So at least 5+ feet wide. And a really good splitter has like nylon or Teflon pads on the bottom, so it can literally scrape on the road surface. So, the best splitter would literally be in contact with the road surface. And the idea here is to seal the underneath of the car to keep any air from going underneath the car. Because what happens when you're going, say, 50 to 100 miles an hour, you get high velocity air going under the car, and it creates a pressure underneath the car. And that's not what you want. You want to create downforce. You want to suck the car down to the road. So what you really want to be doing is trying to create a vacuum underneath the car. So a really good splitter simply seals the front of the car to the road and forces air to go around the front end and prevents hardly any air from going underneath. Then any air that does go underneath, you want it to flow very straight and smooth and exit cleanly out the back, again, to not create any pressure. The last thing you want is some kind of feature in the back of the car, like the rear bumper, to be grabbing air and creating pressure. So in race cars, they do help tremendously. In fact, it can be seconds a lap with a good splitter and diffuser setup. We built one. We built several when we were racing, and a good splitter you have to be able to stand on.
I was just say that's one of the metrics. Like, is this splitter going to hold up? You need to be able to walk across the front of it without the thing deflecting.
If you can't stand on the splitter and it can't support 150, 200 pounds, then it will literally rip off the car, because the splitter should be grabbing a lot of air and forcing it around the front. It will also create a downforce on the front lip, just like a wing would in the back, and so that air pushes down on the front lip and gives you more front end grip. But on a street car, the best way to add more downforce is a rear wing. An effective installed rear wing could give you 100, 200 pounds of downforce on the rear tires, which is a lot of times where you need it. But just like we always talk about with like suspension setups and shock damping, the same thing with aero. It's very difficult to set up. It takes a lot of testing, a lot of measuring. You really need to go to a track and make these changes, make these adjustments, measure all the right things, check your lap times. You can actually measure the amount of force on the wing, on the splitter, things like that.
Yeah, we used to run shock pots, so you actually measure the travel of the shock, and you can compare before and after down the front straights to kind of see what you're kind of loading.
Once you have downforce, you get a certain amount of suspension compression, which you can measure on the shock. On a shock pot, which is the shocks will actually sit in the lower.
Yeah, it's a big linear potentiometer that you attach across the strut.
But if you don't really know about it, if you just want to make your car look a certain way, sure, there's like front lips and things like that you can do. But if you want to make your car faster, it's probably not the most obvious place to look on the street. It's hard to use aero to your advantage. It's
if,
really
if this is a
something
car
you
that
have
sees
to check.
any screen time, that splitter is going to have to be fully removable.
Mhm.
Or if it's not, if you're able to drive it on the street, it's not going to be a very functional splitter.
Follow up on the RS5 swap is this is their engine runs great. They just want to be unique,
Yep.
and
I know all about that.
It's
I've been there,
it's
done that.
definitely tempting, but yeah, I guess you have to figure out what the price for admissions is.
Yeah.
To be unique.
I was putting V8s in all kinds of things, so
Mhm.
I'm all on board the V8 train. But,
Yeah. But you put a 300 horsepower V8 and a 130 horsepower.
right, yeah,
you know?
the metrics were also there.
So that would be like swapping in a 1200 horsepower motor,
Right.
into an RS5. I think it was last week you guys were asking for TTE810 E85 E60 feedback. Both the standard and high output file work great. No issues at all with either. 2021 with 22,000 miles. Car is running great.
Awesome.
Must have been here.
Good to hear. And I talked to a bunch of Stage 3 guys this weekend, too.
Oh, good.
It's lots of guys out there around
Yeah.
that.
Can you run the 4-bar map sensors on the B9s fine prior to installing the turbo in Stage 3 too?
Nope. You need a 4-bar tune to go with the sensors. There's no way in the world that's going to work without the calibration for it. Nor is there any reason to, per se, because you're not going to be running that much boost. But no, those map sensors are the ECU's be-all, end-all of how it knows basically how much air is getting into the motor. And that is a hard fixed calibration calibration set point in the ECU that you have to match to the sensor on the car. So if you put a 4-bar in, it's going to think it's a 3-bar still, and will give you very skewed, whatever, 15, 18% rate difference between the two sensors.
What kind of spring rates do you recommend on a Mark 7 GTI
Performance package.
And would I still need a rear sway bar if I dial in the spring rates to reduce transfer to the rear? I honestly just go into our catalog and use our springs and sway bars. Do our rear trailing arms, do the inserts. It's fucking phenomenal. Like
there's not really any difference on
the Mark 7.
The Mark 7 performance pack versus the others. The spring rates
that car is so good with all of our stuff on it. It's ridiculous.
And yes, the rear bar still highly recommended on. I can't think of an application on Volkswagen Audi where you wouldn't want to run an upgraded rear bar.
Front and rear for sure. I have a S4 B9 TT810 on 93 map, and my revised PCV was blown twice during the month. Also, I see overboost of 0.2 bars on each shift. Is it normal?
A slight overboost like that, a little wiggle and boost as it's shifting, is fairly normal, yeah. Because you've got a turbo going X amount of RPM, and then you basically reduce all the load that is needed for that. So between the bypass valve opening, the wastegates moving around and whatnot, you'll see a little wiggle sometimes. So yeah, that's fairly normal. Yeah, PCV blowing twice though.
I mean that's unfortunately
that's
the factory ones.
That's a very high rate, but
are bad. We're still working on our solution. Designing good upgrades to some of these parts is not easy.
No,
and making it completely bulletproof, and also turns out that factory hose is pretty big and it flows a lot, and so you need a really high flowing PCV hose, unlike some other applications. So there's a lot to doing it right.
To get a PCV like that both is able to hold up to whatever 50 psi we spec, and then flow the same as the factory in all conditions when it actually needs to breathe and move air. Yeah, it's not the simplest task.
Yeah.
To the top one.
Yep.
Mainly just explain that.
Yeah, so somebody's asked for an ETA on TCU unlocks for 2022 on and newer, like the B9.5 S4s, the Mark 8s and whatnot. And then asking why it takes so long. Is there a roadmap or is this uncharted territory? There is no roadmap. There is basically the opposite. Is if you ever have a map, they light it on fire, and then you find a new map, and then they light that one on fire,
and then they put those those tire popping strips.
Yeah, and those rumble strips. The stanchions that pop up and try and stop you. So no, the OEMs make it as hard as possible for any of this to happen. We have to find new tricks, new workarounds. All of the TCUs up to basically this 2022 era had a flaw in the way that the OEMs validated the data. after it was flashed in, and we were able to mathematically get around that pretty. I wouldn't say easy, but it was a straightforward method to get around it, and it applied across like all of the ECUs that Bosch did, or TCUs that Bosch did from 2016 up to 2022 when they finally got a handle on what what they messed up on and kind of closed that door. So the data that goes into these TCUs is RSA signed. There's a cryptographic key that is used to sign all of the data, and that has to match up after the flash to a number of different parameters. But it's the same level of security that you get with like your online bank that uses a 256 or 512 bit security key, so your transactions are safe. It's the same kind of technology used here. And there's a reason banks use it and trust it at that level. If it's done right, is a very secure, very hard to.
And the U.S. government.
Yeah, everyone. That's what literally all of our transactions are backboned on. And it's a very secure, very robust, uncrackable thing in a reasonable amount of time. It would take tens of thousands of years, even with modern computers, to brute force it. So yeah, that's the level of technology we are up against to try and get around it. And it's just a matter of finding the cracks, finding the weak spots, finding some sort of exploit that the OEM missed. You're looking for another engineer's mistakes, and they're always getting better and better and better because we've found X number of doors in the past. They know we found those doors, and will do their best to keep them shut in the future. So yeah, it's an ever evolving and tricky task, and it's not like it's we just need to spend some time on it. We'll get it. It'll take us 5 days to get the code worked out and pounded out. We just got to keep working on it, trying new things, trying different things. And,
it's not
looking for more cracks.
It's not a 034 issue either. It's nobody has this.
Yep.
Right? So,
and it's the same thing. It's why the B9 S4 didn't have calibrations for 3 years after release. This is all the exact same problem. It's the RSA signing on that calibration. You had to find a workaround for.
Yeah.
And it's not about working around and signing the thing or defeating the RSA. It's finding something else that you can do to the ECU that lets you get in there. So, yep.
Any drawbacks of running ECU patch tune without TCU tune? What's missing? I would assume reworked launch control doesn't work.
Oh, it's just everything we offer in the stage 2 TCU files. So performance, raw performance wise, it's going to be the same. Acceleration is going to be the same. Your shift points won't be as optimized, so those might be lower. It's just as safe. All of the other,
Yeah, someone's
features
asking if they should wait to get the ECU once the TCU is available, or can they do the ECU now with the patch?
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot. Is whenever we can, we prefer to have them both. But in this instance, it's an unknown amount of time. We can't promise that this is going to be done anytime soon, and we have yet to see any issues at all running the ECU, the stock TCU patch.
And why is it safe? Why haven't you seen issues?
I mean, we still listen to all of the TCU torque reduction stuff, save for one value that gets passed across.
So you can
specifically, which is just this top cap that it sends over.
You can still
for all the B9.5 stuff. Yes,
different from Mark 8.
Mark 8, we're not doing anything like that yet. We are investigating whether that's going to be a viable solution. But at this point, no, that's totally safe. It's fine. It's just under the TCU cap. TCU is totally happy.
Yeah, it's safe. There's a huge bump in performance. There will be even more power once TCU is available, but there's no reason to wait. I don't know where this idea has gotten out that you should wait till the TCU. The TCU is better, yes. With the TCU is the best. That's how we offer it. But I don't know. It's like if you go to a delicious hamburger restaurant and they run out of cheese. It's like, well, I think everybody likes cheese on their hamburger. Cheeseburgers are delicious. But you're not going to get a hamburger because there's no cheese. You're going to come back a week later. So it's like you can still have a really good hamburger without cheese. Of course, it's better with cheese. I mean, if you want to wait, you can. But there's not a real reason to. Of course, when we release the TCU patch, you will get it for free. So you'll get that later on, and then when we release TCU tunes, those will be available to you at a cheaper price because we always offer a discount for anyone that has bought before the TCU. So we and sometimes it's pretty substantial, like 20-30% off the TCU cost. I think in the past it was like a $600 TCU tune, and we did it for like $450 or something like that. So there's every advantage to get it now. If you're looking for more power and performance, do it now. You will get the thing that you're missing for free when it's available, and you'll get better pricing on staged, higher performance TCU tunes when they're available.
And I think currently we've already done all of the file and calibration work. So once we get the unlock stuff working, those stage 2 and up files are ready to go.
It's the flashing that's the issue.
It's the flashing.
It's not
because there's still cars too. We had one the other day. It was a 2023 come through. Was able to flash his TCU fine. So so we still put all the files up. We still try and make, give everybody the chance to give it a try, see if it works.
What 2023 was that?
I was like an SQ5 or something came through. It was a really late, like a 2023. Like, it had the old loader and flashed it fine.
Milk's going to be very accommodating.
Yep.
Yeah, they aim to please.
Yep.
So yeah, but please don't wait if you think there's a reason to. If you just don't want to spend the money right now, or your wife's going to get mad at you, so you have to hide it, and that's going to take 6 months, then definitely wait. But enjoy your power and performance right now.
Yeah.
I hear you got the MercRacing charger in. Have you tried it yet?
It is in the car right now. So we were just getting started with calibration work. So we had, seems like one thing after another trying to get this thing down there. But yeah, we had Summerfest stuff we were prepping for last week. So it was a matter of all the stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's in. It's getting calibration work today. We're working on it. So we'll have info coming.
B9 Stage 3 power levels, brake pad upgrade recommendations. Depends. I mean, on the street, you could get away with just about anything. There are more aggressive street pads that will make more noise and dust. So then it's really going to depend on how much of that you want to deal with. As far as like a specific, like the Hawk HPS is a good street, aggressive street pad.
Euro ceramic is good for no dust.
Akabono Euro ceramic is being recommended. On track, go with the most aggressive thing you can find. You're still not going to have enough brakes, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, you're going to be managing brakes.
But you can have a lot of fun. You can go pretty fast. You're just not going to be able to go full ABS into every corner. I've gotten really good at driving these cars on track with really undersized brakes, and it's just a lot of downshifting. You just lift a little earlier going into corners, and you feel it getting softer, and you back off for a lap. But ultimately, we have a really nice brake kit coming out that performed very well at Laguna on our RS5 with all the power. And I think that was running 30-minute sessions with Mark, just beating the living hell out of it. So that'll be good coming up. But yeah, what pad you run on the stock brakes, the B9 S4 has a lot of brakes stock, but it's just still not nice.
They also have a lot of power that they're making now. So,
but yeah, it's like almost a 14-inch rotor stock. It's the kind of brakes we used to dream about. Can someone from 034 help collect logs and analyze to make sure nothing blows up after the tune?
Yep, we do log analysis.
It's the standard service we offer.
Anybody that sends it in, we have data logging tools for free that we offer. So yeah, that is certainly something we have done and will continue to do.
You need to email tuning@034motorsport.com. We will be happy to assist you with any logging needs you have. Is it possible to spool the TTE810 turbo faster on launch? It takes longer to spool than rivals in B58 or S58.
Yep. You can't really compare.
It's really hard to compare.
Totally different chassis.
What's the displacement of those motors?
Through there, yeah.
A lot of it's going to depend on the gearing. So if you're staged up and trying to spool it, and I don't know how the comparison was done, but it's possible that those motors do spool the turbos they have faster.
Yeah, I mean, we can't right now. We can get it to the point where we can just blow the tires off of what we're staging at for the most part. So
What's the time to get to that is what he's
the ramp
it's
up
not
rate.
the amount.
Yeah,
it's
that's yes, maybe, but
It's hard to say.
yeah, that's a tough one.
I would not say that the 810 is a slow spooling 700 plus horsepower turbo. It's very, very fast spooling. If you think it's slow spooling, you're very spoiled. Because we used to have 600 horsepower cars that wouldn't hit till like 6,000 RPM.
He's complaining just about launch control.
Just launch.
Not-
Yeah, no, I understand what he's.
Yeah, well, that's where advanced launch will help. Because you can.
Yeah, there will be some more adjustment there
Yeah.
where we can pull more timing and bring things up. But yeah. All right, let's see.
Running a 2019 TTRS Stage 2, can you recommend a Midwest shop to do an engine build? No. Sorry.
There's a
We
story
actually-
to that. We tried one
We
once.
actually tried using a
Oh
Midwest
my God,
engine
that's
shop, and
tragic.
it was a nightmare. Listen, I'm an aftermarket tuning guy, but I recommend putting a factory engine into your TTRS.
If you're going to be seeing stage 2 stuff for sure.
Unless you want to build, 1,000 horsepower, whatever, I strongly recommend buying a short block from Audi and installing that. Rebuilding these motors is not easy. It's not like the old days where there's an engine shop on every corner that could do it. These are aluminum blocks. There's just a handful of shops in the country, I think, that are qualified.
Yeah, because you're generally going to be sleeving the things for the rebuild. That has its own.
And then you just open up a
myriad of
whole
things
other
that
universe.
They need to know some very specific things about that for that motor.
So we did try to build some using. And we're not an engine building shop, so we used some local companies. We used a company in the Midwest. They all resulted in problems and issues. Some cost. One project were like 50 grand in the hole on, just from trying to deal with getting a built motor. I know the big i5 tuning guy in the industry does a pretty good job of hiding it, but he has just it's a hellscape of pain and suffering for his customers who have tried to have him build their motors. So I would just say put in a stock factory long block. I think you can get a long block for about 10 grand. I think a short block is 5 to 10 grand. You probably don't need a head. You just need the bottom end. That would be my advice. Save yourself the trouble. If you need to, you can just throw rods in it. That's pretty much all they need. Maybe do pistons as well, but keep the factory pistons with the factory rings as long as you can. It's pretty. You could swap the rods out before you install the motor and just have a machine shop, tolerance the bearings and stuff. That's what I would recommend. That's a good, 800 horsepower all day motor setup. Will there be an additional cost for advanced launch control when it drops? Also, will there be an additional cost for mobile flashing when it's available? No, on all accounts. The only thing with mobile flashing is there is a cutoff, and now everyone's going to start asking, please don't. We'll give you everything you need to know. But there's a point in the past where our cables will not be compatible with mobile flashing.
Right.
In that case, we will offer some type of grandfathered in discount for anyone who needs to buy our newer version upgraded cable, which will be a very generous discount.
Yep.
We would just need to see a proof of purchase that you own an older cable. We don't necessarily even want those cables back.
No, they're still perfectly functional for any PC based things. So you can have a spare cable
Yeah.
for.
But and it's back a decent ways.
Yeah.
So
And it's going to
if you
depend.
bought a cable in the last year or two, I think you're probably going to be able
Yeah, there's going to be some different rollouts from the beginning. This cable, the latest cable, will be the first released, and then we'll see the one gen behind this may come out at the exact same time. That's yet to be determined. But it's just there's some hardware and resource differences in there that yeah, just necessitates some different tweakery to make it all work.
Mm-hmm. How many people are asking if their cable's compatible?
Maybe we not yet. Just go.
It's coming.
Before it.
Mobile flashing is coming.
Thank you. Why don't you explain what that box is?
If you were here this weekend, you would have seen it working.
Mm-hmm. Have we posted any videos on our face tubes working?
There's been a few clips here and there.
Stories?
Yes, but there will be a full video that's
I
coming.
need like a post.
There will
that
be
we
a
can
full
run.
video coming out.
Okay. Full video coming shortly to influence you beyond measure.
Consider yourself influenced.
Yes, consider yourself influenced. This box, Nate. Would you like to talk about this box?
It's a box.
It's not a head.
So no,
thankfully.
this is something I built for our manufacturing team.
Nate made this.
It's for
Not
not
the
the
case.
case, but there's
The case is the least impressive part about this. It's pretty cool.
what's inside. So this is what, and the marketing guys grabbed this and thought it was cool. I think it's going to be hard to show on the screen here, but you get to see our lights.
Actually, I think it's time to reveal this is actually what was inside the briefcase of Pulp Fiction. That's right here. And we can finally show it around.
Yeah, it's that weird glowing light that's popping up here. So this is a tool that I made for the manufacturing guys. So we design and manufacture and assemble these cables in-house. So the PCB design was all done here.
Oh, we don't get those on Amazon?
We don't get these on Amazon or AliExpress.
I thought they were Alibaba.
Everything from the injection molding and the lights, the CNC cases, to the PCB, to the OBD connectors is all our spec. So yeah, you get this board in with this chip on it. You need to program it, and we need to do it in a quick manner. And then we also need to make sure everything's assembled correctly. All the soldering was done correctly. It's all robotic soldering, but you still need to check it and make sure all the components work. So these all plug
actually a robot.
Yeah, no, these all plug into 4 different OBD ports. There's some wiring and controllers and another cable inside the box that does other things. Among them is sending and receiving CAN bus messages and K-line messages and other messaging across those buses, so that then we can plug in the cable. It'll automatically program it, and then it'll automatically run it through a test cycle. Wait, actually, just retry. You can see some lights blink. There's relays that'll click on and off.
Oh, there's clicking. Yeah.
There's 12-volt voltage sensing. So this is just a tool to make it easy for our manufacturing guys to go through and test the cables, and you can plug it in and go, and basically as fast as we can put them together. Get a nice little demo here. You get to just assemble it, put it in, plug it in. That's all you need to do. It's running special manufacturing firmware, so we control the lights. If it's good, it'll go green. If the tests fail, because it's not going to be plugged in, you get red. So this stuff we're just trying to make it as get red on the screen and on the
red means no go.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where we're trying to make this as reliable of a product once you get it, so there's no issues, but also give the tools to the manufacturing guys to just row through these quick, and
it's good now.
Perfect. It's fixed.
And this is a lot more work than buying your cable. I was making a joke about Amazon and Alibaba, but a lot of our competitors do actually buy cables from places like that. We made our own cable so that we can facilitate not only the functionality like mobile flashing that's coming very soon, but the speed of the cable and future proofing our abilities so that nothing can stand in the way of us delivering new products and features to you guys. Really, the main limit is the time in the day.
Just engineering resources, get it all wrapped up, and in deliverable packaging for you, because these cables are going to be able to do some pretty cool stuff moving forward. It's going to be all blurry. You're not even there.
You're so far away.
No,
there we go.
Nope.
Just barely.
Nope, you're not even there because it's.
There we go. There we go. That's the mobile flashing right
Instagram,
there.
or
see, it's
there.
It's right here.
On Instagram.
Yeah, you're cropped in on Instagram.
Tough break.
Anywho, so yeah, it's just some of the tools we make for in-house that generally don't see the light of day, but we had it set up for the open house. So Nick, it'd be a good idea to bring it over here. So.
Yeah, and we actually, I think a lot of times people just assume I think people either assume we're magicians, or that it's just smoke and mirrors and we're just
we're just putting
a label on something.
No, this is stuff like this completely ground up in-house,
proprietary 0 through 4 engineering from the ground up.
All the firmware on the cables, all the hardware, everything was engineered under this roof. So.
No other tuning company has this. I know they would all love it, but this is something that we made for ourselves, and frankly, there's a whole like company that we could spin off a new company just selling these products to other tuning companies to allow any other tuner to do what we do. But for the time being, we're focused on getting stuff out for you guys.
But yeah, it's
a lot of questions.
Having this level of control over our own product is why we are able to make it work as well as we do.
Well, here's a good question. How many thousands of horsepower do you expect to reliably get from the MercRacing supercharger?
All the thousands.
I'd say about 0.6 thousand.
Yeah, something like that. So it's gonna, because you're still, I mean, the charger, it can flow a lot of air, but you still mechanically got your cylinder heads the same, the 3-liter platform, you've got to pump it all through. So just because a blower can flow X amount of air, it's a matter of getting it into the motor in some sort of efficient way without, stuffing it too hard.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice.
It should make a substantial amount of power.
Like a 100 to 200 horsepower upgrade. This is just
complete spitball. We haven't had it on the dyno at all, but based on numbers and sheets and things,
and knowing like how superchargers.
And we've got it's it's still going to be a bit. We've got a lot of fueling options we want to get sussed out because obviously we're out of fueling. With the current setup, so we have some really cool stuff we're working on right now. So we'll see. But
will datalogging be integrated into the application as well? Mobile flashing?
Yeah, datalogging and live gauges are going to be integrated as well.
And OBD scanning?
All the fault code diagnostics for everything. We have, this is stuff that's already in the app and working. We have, if you're familiar with our data logger now, we give you tools for some different platforms. So like throttle body alignment, dyno mode setting on and off, and a couple of other things. That's all baked into the app as well, because this is all our software, all the exact same libraries and things and code that we use for those apps is being run on your phones and devices as well. So thankfully we forward engineered that enough where we are able to bring all of that code, because we knew we were going here. So all of that code is used and in place. So once we have a function on one thing, it works across all.
There will also be a link tree to all of our OnlyFans sites. This is crazy. I just purchased your software and flashed to stage 3, and now I have to buy a new cable.
Would you like some more clickbait articles to read?
Who said that?
I think he was excited. I think it's an excited response. Like, that cable is sick. I want a new one.
Oh,
like a new excitement.
That's not how it came across.
Did he just buy a cable?
Don't. Let him know he doesn't need to buy it.
You don't need, and this cable's been out for a little while, so I don't know if you have this or not. Maybe he could tell by the lights.
We've been shipping these since for at least 3 months now.
At least.
I thought he was going to say
if it's excited crazy, then that's great. Otherwise, I guess we could just stop all forward progress and keep the old cable we had originally.
I thought he was going to say, call me maybe. I was like, we don't take phone calls anymore. On the B9 2.9 TT in the tuning process, is there any possibility to remove the burble fart on the upshift during wide open throttle or some hard acceleration?
Kind of, not really. That's a function of an injection cutoff to bring the torque down as quickly as possible.
It's there for a reason, guys.
Yeah. It's why it's there on nearly every engine. It started in DSGs, but now it's with all the autos because they're shifting quick enough.
Engines make with the exception of like pops and bangs on no throttle, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason for every sound. As long as you're pushing the throttle in, there's a reason for the sound. We don't add extra sounds under.
Yeah, we don't add any
acceleration.
There are some situations where the sound tuning does come into play on part throttle acceleration, but you still generally, to do the shift with the speed that needs to be done for the transmission, you have to remove all of the load from the engine side to let the transmission complete that shift. There's only a certain amount of timing that you can pull before emissions and other things get out of whack. So the next strategy that the OEMs will use, or anybody will use, is going to be an injection shutoff. So that's where that burble and rumble comes from on the upshift. It's just a function.
You have to reduce the torque to shift.
Yeah, it's a function of just reducing the torque enough for that shift to happen.
Yeah.
And you've got to do it as digitally as possible, because shutting the throttle is not going to do it fast enough. You've still got plenums and pipes full of air, so you've got to work in a faster manner than you can with just moving air around, because that's your slowest method of control.
And it's just how that engine, transmission, and ECU system works.
Yeah,
Like from the factory.
you could shift a lot slower and have a nice silent, quiet shift.
Which is what the factory does in comfort mode.
In comfort mode or in real light throttle stuff, so you don't get that. But as soon as you're in it and you need a nice rapid shift, sub like probably 100 millisecond or so, or 120 milliseconds, you're going to start hearing things like that on any platform.
Think of it as flat foot shifting. If anyone ever asks you why your car made that sound, like it's flat foot shifting.
It's exactly what it is.
It's what the ECUs, and everybody wants that, but that makes sounds like that. I've got a B9 S4 with your stage 285 tune, and I love it, by the way. But what is your opinion on the CTS Fremont intercooler? As I feel like I get heat suck at times. I live in South Dakota. It's been hot and humid.
I mean, we have no data, I don't think, that I know of offhand, at least, that's comparative on the CTS intercooler. So we can look at logs for you and tell you how good, bad, or ugly it is.
You're definitely getting heat suck, and you need a upgraded intercooler. I would recommend getting the Wagner intercooler. We don't know a lot about the CTS intercooler. I'll just tell you, CTS intercoolers and CTS products in general are typically copies of other companies' products. They continually are copying products that we come out with. They're cheap for a reason, and I think it's they took someone else's design, went to China, had some company throw an intercooler core in it.
Facsimile of it, maybe.
Yeah, and I can guarantee you it's not the best, most well-engineered product on the market. You might save $100 or $200, and you're going to get something that's worth much less. So I would strongly recommend, if you're going to go through the effort and put in a new intercooler, get a Wagner intercooler, which is properly engineered. We test and tune all of our calibrations with these intercoolers. We can guarantee you that it's the right intercooler for your car, and it will give you great reductions in intake air temps to reduce the heat soaking.
And they still flow very well. That's another big thing, is a lot of these other companies just throw these just chonking bar and plate things in.
Yeah, and CTS is going after like the bottom of the market that's looking for cheap stuff. So I think you can do better.
Yeah, they're looking for an intercooler, not necessarily the geez. All right, sorry about that.
Can you explain your different intake styles, P34, S34, X34, and why each platform has different types? Did the B8 3.0 T with an X34 in the past, but now it's just the S34. Yeah, this would be a good article to do, and maybe like a video, like one of your instructional videos.
I explained it during the store this weekend, so I can.
Yeah, this is a great question. Thank you for asking. So we do have three styles: P34, S34, X34. P34 intakes are our lowest cost options, or very high value options, where you get a lot of intake for the money. We're able to reduce the cost because we mold in plastic. Injection molded plastic, or rotomold in some cases, is usually what we do, is very expensive tooling, but the per unit cost is really small. So we just have to pay a huge amount of money up front, and then the parts as we buy them individually are very cheap. So as long as we can sell a certain number, we can pay off the tooling cost, and then we can keep the price low. These are good for anyone who's looking for a great bump in performance, but doesn't want to pay for carbon, doesn't really care about having carbon fiber. Some people actually want more OEM looking stuff, so it doesn't stand out. The P34 products are excellent, and we offer those in every platform where we believe more price sensitive customers exist. The S34 is an intake that consists of a carbon fiber shield. So it's when you open the hood, the intake will be open to the engine compartment, but the idea is when you shut the hood, it will be a relatively closed off intake that gets cool air from the front of the car. These almost always come with a silicone connector hose from the air filter to whatever the intake system is. This is a great option for anyone who's looking for that carbon fiber, who's looking for very high performance. Typically our S34 intakes are our highest flowing because of the simplicity of the design and kind of the more open nature of the intake. But we can keep the cost down by using the silicone connector hose and just doing a carbon fiber shroud as opposed to a box, which is typically more expensive to construct a box out of carbon fiber. And then the X34 intakes are full carbon fiber. They will use silicone connector hoses here and there, but all the tubes are carbon fiber. The intake box is carbon fiber, and they're typically closed off to the engine compartments. And they will direct air from the factory cold air provision into the intake system. The X34s are typically our most expensive intakes. They typically flow, as good, almost as good as the S34s. Some of the S34s, like I can fit my whole arm through the intake, so it's just a very big free flowing design. But the X34 is kind of our premium intake for that kind of really OEM plus, like if Audi went really upscale with the RS cars and they came with a carbon fiber intake. So that pretty much explains the differences. What we do for the different platforms just depends on what we feel like the demand is and what the need is out there. So we have a whole line of S34s coming out for the B9 S4, for the B9 SQ5. What else do we got coming? We got S6, C7, S6, S34 coming out. A lot of cool stuff coming out for intakes. Gregor10 recently posted a car with 890 horsepower on a 2.9 twin turbo with full frame turbos and air-to-air conversion. Is air-to-air necessary at those power levels, and is there any other components that can be improved? I'll just say, for one, there's nothing magical about air-to-air versus water-to-air. Each intercooler style removes heat from the intake charge, and it just comes down to how much capacity does it have. So, there's nothing magical about air-to-air over water-to-air. In fact, water-to-air intercoolers are typically much more efficient as long as the system has enough capacity, as long as there's enough coolant in the system and enough ability for the coolant to release its heat. Water has much higher heat holding capacity than air. The advantage of air and air is that you're drawing from this relatively infinite, virtually infinite source of air around your car as you drive. So you're never going to max out the capacity of the air. However, depending on the ambient temperatures, your efficiency will vary based on that. So if the factory air to water system doesn't have enough capacity for 900 horsepower, then yes, it won't perform well. You can increase it by, for example, installing the Wagner system, which has a lot more capacity. I don't think we've seen the max. We haven't really necessarily.
Intercoolers are a moving target. It depends. If you go to a more efficient turbo setup too, your air temps come down. I mean, you still get the temperature.
Two full frame turbos
from the compressed air, but you might be at a much higher efficiency point on those turbos, so your temperature delta is way better, and you may not need to necessarily upsize as much as you would have even on a smaller output turbo. So these questions are always nuanced, and it's an impossible one take answer on stuff like this where with no background information, what are we really doing?
Yeah, you're taking a situation with dozens of variables that contribute to some perceived outcome, and then you're changing one variable and then trying to compare it to a completely different situation with also a dozen variables. So I think an air to water system could be created that supports 1,500 horsepower in RS5. You just need a intercooler system with the appropriate capacity for the amount of heat that's being generated from the turbocharger system. And that's just not a simple answer because it's not a simple question.
Yeah, no, there's so many moving parts and different considerations in there.
Could you explain more detailed what is the effect of the transmission mount insert beyond experienced crisper shifts? Is it to make more noticeable the gear shifts, the opposite of dual clutch shifts? I mean, it reduces the amount of movement in the transmission mount. So that's going to translate into crisper shifts, into faster, more responsive acceleration as you get on and off the throttle. It's going to make you feel more connected to the drivetrain as you get on and off the power. It's going to reduce the sloppiness or bounciness of the engine and transmission as you you get on and off the power.
That's the biggest change in my opinion. Is that it's that transitional. Like you're in a quarterly lift, you get back into it. You're trying to modulate the throttle. You're not fighting this like transmission that's literally bouncing an inch and a half up and down. And you do feel it like when you transition in, you get this kind of like when it finally settles on the stock mount interface.
Ooh, a lot of questions.
Sorry, guys, we're not going to get to all these
today.
We did not
No.
Do we need to?
and I think that's why we have so many questions.
Do we need to call the police? Yeah.
Wolf helps us. Yeah.
Missing persons.
No.
I got a nice
A wellness check, or is he?
I got a nice Danish on Saturday.
From Wolf?
Yeah.
Is that where that came from?
Yeah.
It's delicious. I have some too.
I haven't seen it.
No, it's good. Yeah, he came.
My kids had some of that, so thank you.
Yeah, no, the kids liked it, and I had a piece too.
Can you let them know? What?
Oh yeah, we've got a full page of questions, guys. So we're working through it here.
Let's see. We got 5 more minutes here. What's the current delay time on support mails? Just so I know the wait time. We try. Like I see a report on this every week, and we're about 24 hours on response times on average. So I mean, some are much quicker, some are slower.
Yeah, that is very much the average. So some are way faster than that.
That's business days. So if you email on Friday, you're not going to get a response on Saturday, but you should get a response within about a day. But like sometimes it's going to be sooner than that. I did the stage 1 E85 tune with your team in Fremont. What is the longevity and maintenance difference between a 91 and the E85 tune? Also, awesome events in Fremont. Thanks for the TriTip. You're welcome.
Pretty sure we have a uncut for this. The maintenance interval changes and considerations.
We do.
So we'll try and shoot you a link to that. But we've got a full uncut of that. But generally, rule of thumb, you're going to be making a bunch more power
with the 85.
With the 85, you generally will change your intervals accordingly for like oil change and plug maintenance and that kind of thing. It all kind of scales relatively with the amount of power you're making.
Mm-hmm. Any luck on getting more X34 SuperDuper inlets? I don't know. I don't have the ETA, but we're working really hard to get anything that's out of stock back in stock. They will ship. If you like an ETA, you can email our customer service team at contact@034motorsport.com. For stage 2 B9 S5, how long will stock motor mounts last? Symptoms of failure. It's hard to say. The one thing I think we can say is they will fail prematurely. Symptoms of failure will be a sensation of like the engine bouncing around. You could hear clunking sounds getting on and off throttle. You will see like oil leaking from somewhere in the motor area down to the subframe. I'm in between of modifying my B9.5 for stage 3 power levels or using that money to get a used X4M competition and get into the S58. What do you think is a better car for the street? I mean, we're always going to choose the Audi, in this case. I actually don't know a lot about those cars other than they're also great.
Really fast.
Yeah.
Stock turbo in the ranks.
Yeah, but we're an Audi tuning company, and we think a stage 3 B9 is a great street car.
You know what time it is?
Mobile flashing time?
Yes, please. One more.
Yeah, it's coming soon.
Thank you.
Can you tune an S3 8Y with EA888 Gen4 in Mexico? It's a different configuration car. You're gonna have to email. You can email on to tuning@034motorsport.com. We could look into that for you. Do you guys make any products for the Cupra Ateca? I don't know. Probably.
It's an MQB.
We probably do. Did we ever finish that Seat project? Did that die on the vine? Where are you pointing at? What's the best intercooler to get for B9 on stage 2? We currently recommend the Wagner intercoolers, as we've been saying. Best intercoolers on the market. Wayne Morris says, last thing, thanks for doing a good job on the tune. Works good and safe. Stage 1 rocks and makes the car really come alive. Glad to hear, Wayne. That's been our experience as well. I got that motor mount question already. What will be the benefits of a larger throttle body on the B9? We don't know yet, but generally speaking, probably more power above 5 or 6,000 RPM.
Yep.
It won't likely affect low RPM performance because there's plenty of airflow down there. But at some point, the stock throttle body, which is very small, it's like maybe 55 millimeters, does become restrictive, or it begins to restrict power the higher you rev. So I think as we rev these motors even higher with bigger turbos, having a bigger throttle body will be a good benefit. Oh, I think we did pretty good.
Just one more mobile flashing.
It's coming soon.
Thank you.
It's getting ridiculous.
It is crazy how many. We need to do that banner next time.
Literally.
Someone's asking if we would actually release a updated maintenance schedule for stage 3 cars.
Maintenance schedule.
It's a good idea.
It's not terrible. It's so dependent again on.
But a maintenance schedule is like, it can't hurt to do this.
Sure. Yeah, we certainly are on the side.
I think we have to be careful of saying that if you do this, you will never have a problem. There's no way for us to say that. But I think an updated maintenance schedule is a really good idea.
It's a
we should take
idea
note.
that we've had sitting around for a while.
Let's take note to put up.
Can you remind people that we aren't doing status update for ETA questions? I have some angry people.
Oh yeah, I say it at the beginning of every chat that we're here to give ETA updates to things that we don't know. So we have been talking about several updates throughout. But if you'd like an update on anything that you've ordered, you can email contact@034motorsport.com. They have access. There's a whole customer service support system where they can find out ETAs of when products are scheduled to ship. But as far as like the new product ideas and concepts that we've discussed in the past, we don't have direct updates on those. So we've spent a lot of time trying to say how long it would take or when is something coming, and then when we release a product isn't dictated by when we want to release it or when you want it. It's dictated by when the product is finished and ready for release. So and guessing at when that may be has been problematic in the past. So I'm sorry if you're frustrated by wanting an update. Certainly not our intention to purposefully withhold information to upset anyone. We just don't know. And it doesn't help to keep talking about these hypothetical dates that come and go. Then people also get mad at us for saying dates that come and go, and it's just a lose-lose. So we've pulled back from saying as much as we have in the past. All right, I think we're way over. Sounds like someone improperly installed our motor mount inserts. Okay, cheers. You guys have a great week. I think we'll see you next week.
All right, guys.
All right, later.